they're probably nudging them. So.
Yeah. There you go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Google Plus Hangout. My name is Heather. I'm here at the National Aquarium, and we will be hanging out with Fabien Cousteau, the crew of Aquarius and Mission 31. We are totally excited about this. We get to see inside the laboratory, which is right now 63 feet underwater, and we're going to have a fun time. Hopefully a tour, and also talk a lot about ocean conservation, ocean exploration, and also talk to somebody who used to be with us at the National Aquarium, but is now a member of the crew. So there's so many things we're going to get to. One of the exciting things is you can also submit some questions for Fabien and for Laura, myself, or Adam, who you'll meet. And you can do that by just doing hashtag Mission31Chat. So hashtag Mission31Chat, and later on we'll get to your questions, and we'll be sending those under the sea and getting some great answers. So please stick with us, and first I want to introduce Laura.
Hi, my name is Laura Banky. I'm the Director of Conservation at the National Aquarium, and we are so excited to share this time with Fabien Cousteau and the crew of the Aquarius, and to be able to share their underwater adventure with all of you out there.
And we also have someone who just experienced what it's like to be undersea in a laboratory, sleeping there, doing science and research, eating and hanging out and doing a lot of work that helps us understand more about the ocean. And that is Adam. And Adam is one of our own who used to work here at the National Aquarium. Adam, please say hi.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks for the introduction there, Heather. My name is Adam Zanone, and as she said, I interned at the Baltimore Aquarium, and it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I have to say that it really did help me get into kind of this whole exploration of the ocean and really integrate myself into projects like this. And I'm just so happy to be able to chat with them again at the aquarium, and would be happy to answer any questions that people have about my experiences down on the Aquarius.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because we already have some questions for you. And now, I didn't overlap with your time here, but I wanted to know, what was your experience like at the National Aquarium? Just briefly, what were you doing, and how did that affect your future plans?
Well, so I was an Aquarius intern, and I worked with the third floor displays at the aquarium, and a lot of my work was ensuring the proper feeding of the exhibits, ensuring cleanliness of the exhibits, and just the regular daily upkeep and maintenance of the exhibits. And it was a really rewarding experience. Not only because you get to see this behind the scenes aspect of the one of the best aquariums in the country, but also because you just get to see that on everyone's faces that comes through the aquarium. Like, you're not only getting satisfaction for yourself, but you're educating, and you're showing these people the beauty of these systems that they may never had the chance to see otherwise. And so that really kind of opened the door towards this kind of outreach aspect, and this need to educate people about the status of our oceans and the health of the oceans. And I would say that my experience at the aquarium really kind of put me in that direction, and opened up a couple of doors. That experience itself to doing just that.
That's awesome. And even before the aquarium, what was your background, and how did you know that you wanted to intern with us? Was there anything that was really influential in your childhood that made you care about animals and the environment?
Yeah, so I grew up in the landlocked state of Pennsylvania, and which you wouldn't immediately think that the oceans would be my main interest, but my family would always make yearly trips to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. And, I always knew I loved the ocean. I always did. And I saw an episode of Bill Nye. I was probably in 2nd or 3rd grade. Seriously. And they did a special on a marine biologist, and I'm like, oh my gosh, people, this is their job, and I knew right then that that's kind of the area that I wanted to get into. So that kind of background really led me into this kind of job. Yeah, definitely.
It's great. Bill Nye was an influence for me too.
Yeah.
And Laura?
I'm actually a little bit older than both of you, but the interesting kind of correlation that Jacques Cousteau is the influence when I was younger. He was a little bit older than I, but they showed his shows over and over again on TV, and it was always this kind of wow. You know, if I could do even a little bit of that, it would be really amazing.
Well, I appreciate both of you guys sharing about that, because now here we are doing this amazing hangout. Hopefully we're going to be talking with Fabien underwater, and that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, at least for me. Adam, I'm wondering, how did you get to do this? How did you get involved with Mission 31? How did you get chosen to go?
I guess it all kind of started. I'm a graduate student at Florida International University in Miami, and just last year, or the year before that, they acquired the Aquarius underwater research laboratory. It was about to be shut down, actually. UNCW and NOAA had been, co-running this habitat for a number of years, and unfortunately, they decided that to go in a different direction, and the habitat was about to be shut down until FIU recognized this amazing opportunity, really. And kind of came in and said, hey, we'll save this. We're going to make this our own, and that's kind of where it started. Now, my direct kind of contact with the Aquarius began in November of last year, when my colleagues, a couple of them, conducted the first mission from FIU to the Aquarius for research purposes. And so I was able to help them from the surface. I didn't actually stay on the base, but this enabled me to meet the people at the base here and kind of get to know things and see how it worked. And so when the opportunity for Mission 31 came up and they were looking for somebody to kind of continue that research, my name popped up, and I was fortunately selected and extraordinarily lucky and happy to be asked to become part of this mission.
So we just need to get on a list, right? I mean, I've got a wetsuit.
I'm certified.
Right. I mean, I know how to Skype. So no, I'm just,
they
really
take
jealous
volunteers of all kinds, and I'm sure that if you found yourself down here and worked for a while, who knows what the possibilities are.
But Adam, I know better. I know that they also put you to work, right? So can you tell us a little bit about what research, what science you were involved with? What would you do on a day? What was your day made up of?
Yeah, absolutely. Contrary to the pictures and other things that I may have been posting, we actually were doing a really rigorous set of experiments and research down there at the Aquarius. Our days started brutally early. We woke up at 4:30 every morning, and we were in the water by 5:30 or 6. And we were looking at a couple different aspects of human impacts on coral reefs. And the first impact that we were examining was the effect of nutrients on corals and how that kind of affected their growth. And so for those of you that don't know, corals are a really interesting little organism. They're essentially animals that are symbiotic with algae, and that they provide each other with necessary things for survival. And these algae, when exposed to increased nutrients, can actually overgrow and cause damage to the corals, and that causes coral bleaching and things like that. So one of our projects was to examine the effects of increasing nutrients directly on the coral health itself. Another aspect was examining the effects of predators on prey. And so recently it's become known worldwide that predators have huge effects on prey, more than just the body count. So I mean, they eat the prey, sure, but just by existing and just by being there, the prey change their behavior in often in unexpected and novel ways. And so it's kind of like dropping a lion into a cafeteria. What are the people going to do? So we were examining these effects by doing something very similar to a cafeteria. We were placing very desirable food sources in the form of seagrass in certain treatments on the reef, and then placing decoy groupers on some of those treatments, and then comparing it to treatments without groupers. And so basically, we wanted to see how much of a risk were these fish willing to go through to get that really desirable food source. And that was that other aspect of that project. And actually, I can see here that Fabien has now joined us from the Aquarius. Yeah.
Hi, Fabien.
Hello, how are you?
Hello.
We are
great. And Adam, that was a great explanation of what you guys have been up to. So it was nice to hear it, because we don't always necessarily have a chance to sit down and chat like that. So I saw them working, helped them on occasion, but we miss you already, my friend. I know that you're sad that you weren't down here and eating Mountain House with us and bug juice and sleeping on very comfortable cots.
I missed the 5-star hotel. You're very correct, Fabien.
I'm interested in the bug juice.
Come on. Virginia is missing you right here.
Oh, no. I'll tell her I said hi.
I will do that.
Well, I can tell you guys have some great inside jokes and some great experiences. We want to definitely welcome you, Fabien, and thank you for joining us. My name's Heather, and this is Laura at the National Aquarium, and you've just made our day. We are so excited to hear about your work, to hear about what's going on today, the history of this mission. We would love to hear from you about how this came to be.
Absolutely. Do you want me to start now?
Anytime you feel like it, yeah.
Well, I just got back in from a dive, so that's why I'm a little wet, and I apologize for that. But, well, let's see. Let's start with the beginning, I guess. I've always wanted to live underwater, mainly, or I would imagine I could attribute that from the stories that I heard from my grandfather and his team, and having grown up in an aquatic family that would get together on vacations and special occasions on expedition. That was the best way to get together. I had an opportunity, an incredible opportunity, to dive since the age of 4 and go on expedition since the age of 7. So I really didn't know any different until much later in life when I look back on it and I realized it was a pretty special upbringing. But really the takeaway of all that was that it was a very unique experience and a dream, really, because nothing was impossible. It was, in a sense, a fantasy world because you're always somewhere exotic or different or strange and alien environment, and you're with like-minded people that were on this quest for adventure, and more importantly than adventure, on a quest for adventure and relaying it back to the public that may never get a chance to do that. So there's a very heavy element of storytelling in all this adventure. And my grandfather was an amazing storyteller. He started off as one, as a matter of fact, as a filmmaker, and he then transitioned into ocean exploration at a very young age. But he had told me all sorts of tales, and of course, I was born way after the conch shell series of underwater habitats that he built. But I had heard of them, and I had heard about them from some of the team members that had been the original aquanauts, or oceanauts as they were called back then. And so that always stuck in the back of my mind. I thought, wow, what a great concept to be able to live at this final frontier. And, you know, your job every day is to commute to work through the water column and go and explore and collect scientific data, and then at the end of the day, or at the end of the month or the year, you can put something together that you can share with the rest of the world called film back then. And now we can do this with the world's only undersea marine laboratory, Aquarius, in real time, online, and thanks to not only our aquanauts, of course, like Adam and Grace and Andy and Liz, who are all sharing their experiences online, we're also able to bring that in small packages, like education packets that we give to classrooms and educators around the world as part of a takeaway that they can share with their students down the road, as part of short stories, which we post online, as photos that literally, as soon as we break the surface inside the habitat, our Nokia devices are already uploading the footage and the still shots up to the web so that people can watch. I mean, and it's just amazing. Of course, the live cameras are here, and the long-term documentary as well. It's all just an amazing experience to be able to immerse people from around the world, whether 1,000 miles away or right on the ocean front, in a Cousteau expedition for the very first time, by hitting all those platforms, by hitting storytelling, education, and science all together in a way that is through the lens of adventure, this human-ocean connection. And it's a really opportune time right now. I've noticed that the world is starting to pay attention to oceans again. You know, it's still young, and we definitely need to cater to that little kindling of a fire. But we really need to take advantage of this refocusing of the oceans since the 80s, I would say, so that we can bolster the environmental message in an empowering way. Most people will never get a chance to do what we do. Most people probably will never even get a chance to go diving. And by virtue of that fact, it alienates a lot of folks. And we need to be able to showcase how magical and unique this little oasis in space is in a way that they get, that they understand, that they fall in love with, so that they too can be part of the solution. So long story short, Mission 31 is set, or the stage is set from Conshelf 2, which was built by my grandfather and lived in by his team and him 50 years ago. So we're paying tribute to that. Of course, all the aquanauts since. We're going one symbolic day longer just to mark that, that special moment. It's thanks to all the previous aquanauts to us that we're able to do what we're doing. And hopefully we'll be able to show or maybe bolster curiosity in the next generation of aquanauts and underwater habitats. But it is a special place. I mean, this is a public forum, in a sense, Mission 31, and by reaching out to folks such as yourselves and others out there, we're able to hit all 6 continents and really try and touch as many people as possible. I symbolically set a number at 331 million. We are way over that number at this point, and we have about 14 days left. So we're very excited about that. Obviously, there needs to be a Beyond Mission 31, but hopefully this will spark interest to do that with various folks who can carry on where we've left off.
Well, you mentioned the legacy, the traditions, and I do want to ask about Day 31 later, because I'm sure you have something really special planned, some celebrations or some new traditions. But I also know that I saw Adam was wearing a red hat, and I've seen a picture with a lot of your crew wearing a red hat. Is that a nod to your family? I'm sure it is.
Well, you know, June was a very special month. It's a special month for a number of reasons. As a matter of fact, as happenstance would have it, originally Mission 31 was supposed to happen in November, and we've got delays for various reasons. So just like any NASA countdown, you have to reset the clock and start all over again, and so we ended up starting in June, which I completely forgot, having not read The World Without Sun in a long time, that those very same delays happened on Conshelf 2. And they ended up in June as well. So maybe that's just luck or happenstance or what have you. But as all that would have it, there are a lot of special moments in June to celebrate. One of them is World Ocean Day on June 8th. And then, of course, Capitol Hill Ocean Week, which also is on that. My sister's birthday is June 6th. And the reason why we're wearing our red caps is my grandfather's birthday is June 11th. So we wore them symbolically as an homage to the dawn of ocean exploration, to those pioneers that came before us, including, of course, my grandfather's team. But the red cap really has a very serious significance. It has, for significance, that my grandfather wore it as an homage to the hard hat divers before him. Because the hard hat divers in France would wear the red cap underneath this big bulbous hard hat so to keep themselves warm, obviously, and also when they're pushing the valves and buttons inside the helmet. There weren't very many valves and buttons outside. They were all inside, so you'd have to kind of slam your head against those valves and buttons. And so that's why they were wearing the red caps. And of course, the red caps were the divers, and the blue caps were the tenders.
Gotcha.
They're also quite stylish.
And they have to be extremely stylish.
Right. And I love what you said about capturing the imagination and how that was important when you were a child. It was a magical place. It was somewhere undiscovered, somewhere that had a world of possibilities. There's so many parallels to space exploration. There's also a lot of differences. Is there any way we can get a chance to see a little bit around Aquarius and tell us what is it like down there? What are some of the little funny idiosyncrasies about the place?
I don't know if you saw who I was waving at, but that was one of our hard hat divers. And oh, here he comes. Actually, here's the beginning of the tour. I don't know if you can see him. He's got a 6K red camera in his hand, so it's hard for him to get around. But so far, so good. There he is, right there.
Hello.
You're now in 9 times HD definition. So that's Matt Ferraro. He's my cinematographer down here and my DP, and he's spending the rest of the time down here with us. But
how many folks are down there with you?
We're 6 people total in something the size of a school bus. Aquarius is 43 feet long by 9 feet wide. I'm going to leave my towel there. I apologize. I normally don't. I'm not that sloppy. But we're going to take a quick tour around so I can show you Aquarius very quickly. This is our bunk room right here. And as a matter of fact, one of our intrepid female aquanauts right here, Liz McGee from Northeastern University, is taking a quick nap because she just beat everyone's record here on hard hat. She just went 5 hours and 10 minutes on a dive. But that's the luxury that living at saturation depth allows, is we can go diving as long as we want. And 6, 8, 10, 12 hours a day if we want, or more. This is our view from the bunk room. And as you can see, it's not shabby.
No.
This is actually... well, it's hard to get sleep because you're always looking out the window, but we do get pretty tired after all that diving, so there's usually not much of a problem to get to sleep at night, except for the fact that at night it gets very active out there, and the tarpon come right near the viewport, and because they're so shiny, they actually reflect the lights that we have outside right back into the bunk room, and it becomes very, very bright like daylight in here. So not always easy because there's so much activity out there. So here we are in the main part of the habitat. You have Grace Young, who must have just come back from a dive or just showered. So she's all nice and clean now. We've got Otter, who's one of our technicians. Excuse me for the coughing. We've got our control center right here with our communications. Our O2 and humidity, temperature. Here's all our air and everything else. Our electric bank, just like you have at home. Notice the red button. Don't ever touch that. We've got our galley, which is a perfect example of what our limitations are. I'm sure Adam probably already explained to you, but we basically eat things that are pre-prepared food. So typically things that are pre-packaged, a little bit like astronaut food or freeze-dried food. And those things are necessary because we can't have open flames down here. So without open flames, obviously our cooking abilities are left to creativity. Let's put it that way. Anyway, let's keep going here.
Lots of hot sauce.
Lots of hot sauce. Oh, that's another side effect of being at 3 atmospheres, is our sense of taste has kind of gone a little bit numb. So a lot of us end up using extra flavorings, including hot sauce, on some of our foods, and we've been getting very creative with mixing things. Not necessarily things you would do topside, but they actually add flavor down below.
Wow.
So here, I'm going to show you one of... you have notes on here, Adam. I'm not sure if I can show, but let me see if I can There we go.
Yeah,
I'm
go ahead
going to
and
show you some one of Adam's and Andy's toys here. And I don't know who's been messing with the computer, Adam, so I'm sorry, but I'm not going to mess with it. But here's your sonar. So did you want to explain a little bit about your research with your sonar?
Sure. So these are what are known as imaging sonars, and essentially what we're using them for is to quantify the effects that predators have on prey. So a lot of the times when you study behavior, you use cameras, and obviously cameras can be affected by things such as visibility, which is not always good. Light availability, so I mean, you can't look at these things at night. And the nice thing about the sonar is that it functions off of sound, and sound waves are entirely independent of water quality, of visibility, of light availability. And so we're using these imaging sonars, which gives us essentially a video of, much like a camera would, of the fish and the bottom in the directions that it's facing. And so we're using that to kind of ask questions like how close are the fish getting to the predator, how many fish are coming in next to the predator, does their activity change between night and day, and all sorts of questions like that. And I'm remoted into that computer right now, Fabien, so that was me messing with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, gotcha. So it's all good.
I saw the windows changing, and I'm like,
yeah.
I didn't do that. I'm not telling him I touched it.
You broke my things.
Well, we're going to try and take very good care of your stuff down here. And we've got Liz and Grace right now to help with that. But
I'm sure we're going to do just fine.
We've got our communications right to our hard hat divers right here, right next to where Adam and Andy are set up. And then we've got some more gear on this side. And then, of course, my favorite part of the habitat, which I will open the door to right now, and where Ryan is, thank you, sir, is the wet torch, which is where we have our dive gear, of course, as well as our camera gear. There's another one of those 6K cameras that we're using. And, of course, the moon pool, which we can get in and out of the habitat. The door to the outside world. There are 99% of our world's living space. My favorite part. Of course, I'm going to get out of here because it is humid, and we're trying to keep the rest of the habitat cool and air-conditioned and dry. One of the very big challenges around here is keeping things dry and not overly hot. So here we are, and our air conditioning's been working so far, so it doesn't feel like the Amazon in here yet.
Now it did break down, right? You had some issues earlier.
It broke down. Yes, there was one fairly minor breakdown, but minor in the sense that it was only a day. But a day in a sauna is still not a fun experience. It was about 94 degrees and 99% humidity in here, so it happened to break down the night before, the afternoon before, and it didn't get fixed to that next morning. But we were all very happy that it did get fixed eventually. In the meantime, we would take leaps into the moon pool to get cooled off in 78-degree water, and I know that Adam and Andy ended up sleeping on the floor.
It was quite comfortable, actually.
Adam's a pretty good sport. You sound.
No, I'm just a grad student. I'm used to uncomfortable places.
Well, I do have a few questions about what we just saw, and I know you didn't bring all the food with you at the beginning, right? So how do you get supplies, and how often?
That question is apropos because those are our Navy divers going by. I don't know if you saw them going by and waving to us, but those guys are. It's thanks to them that we get our supplies. I won't say daily, but almost daily. They come down with pots, so potted things, basically what look like pressure cookers. And that's how we can get our supplies and our gear from the surface down here. Essentially, pressure, it allows for us to bring things down to this kind of ambient pressure, 3 atmospheres, from the surface without getting it either wet or damaged by the pressure.
Fabien, this is Laura. What you're explaining in your living conditions looks a little rough. It looks completely exciting in my opinion, but it does look a little rough. But I'm actually looking I'm interested in the original expedition 50 years ago and what their living conditions would be like. Do you have any idea what that was like?
I do, just by historical conversations, and of course we have a book here. We have The World Without Sun right here, and looking through it and remembering those conversations with the original folks, it was amazing to see that a lot of things, and my grandfather was very much a forward thinker, so a lot of things just didn't exist and had to be invented. Pressure pots, they would use literally pressure cookers to bring things down to their habitat. And you know, the pressure pots of now really aren't that much different. So there's a lot of technologies that we're using today that are pretty much the same. There are differences, however. We are capable of, obviously, of speaking live like we are doing now. We are capable of shooting a video and uploading things online fairly quickly, if not instantly. So, you know, those are tools that just weren't available to him back in those days. And although he thought of those things, they just didn't exist, and he couldn't invent them because the technology just wasn't there. But closed-circuit television, which we have here as well, you know, the cameras that go back to the base, and those cameras are also fed online. Those things he had back in 1963 with Conshelf 2. Actually, they even had it in Conshelf 1 in 1961, closed-circuit television, just to monitor the divers, make sure they were okay. And they had phones to be able to communicate and all that. And you might hear the phone in here ring every once in a while, but you know, the more things change, the more they stay the same.
That's right. Well, oceans are definitely changing, and we'll talk about the future of conservation and how what you're doing with Mission 31, what we're doing at the National Aquarium, is trying to connect people to the urgency, but also the hope of what we can do together. So I definitely want to get to that. And I do have a question. I think this is from an online person joining us. It says, due to the lack of sun, do you take supplements, or do you have a high lumens light to prevent seasonal disorder? And we know that can happen when you don't get enough sunlight.
What do you mean? Disorder? What do you
I don't know.
What's it been, 18 days? Yeah, we did put that into account. And back in the day, for Conshelf 2, they actually had a tanning bed in their particular habitat called the Starfish House. They would take 6-minute sun baths, so to speak, with that particular tanning bed. We don't really need that here, although we are twice as deep. We don't really need that here because of supplements. Some of us are taking vitamin D supplements. Well, we're taking supplements in general. I'm taking multivitamins, but same kind of thing. It's certainly always a question as to how much you need and all that, but so far none of us have been suffering any ill effects. Although we do have, and of course I don't have it on my wrist right now, Adam, but we do have our sleep watch bands that monitor the light level inside the habitat where we are, and also monitors our sleep patterns. And of course we follow up with that on physical surveys that we do every morning for the Clayton Sleep Center. So we are monitoring these things, but so far everyone seems to be acting more or less normally, or abnormally, depending on what you consider an aquanaut.
Well, I also had a question for you, Adam. Since you resurfaced, have you noticed anything different after spending time undersea? Anything pop up for you or surprise you after the experience?
You know, I'm a cold weather kind of guy, and living in Miami, that tends to raise some issues sometimes. But coming back up, I've never quite appreciated the presence of the sun as much as I did when I first came back up from the bottom. Not that you even necessarily notice that you miss it while you're at the bottom, because you really don't. You know, you're relatively warm, and it's pretty light out, as you can see outside the window there. You don't lose all that much sunlight coming down through the water column. But there's just something about that feel of the sun's rays on your arms that you know, you can't quite replicate down there. So yeah, that's something that's definitely different. I won't complain about the Miami sun as much as I used to.
Well, we had a long, dreary winter in Baltimore, so I think we understand where you're coming from. I want to know if you're still mixing your food the way you did underwater. If you have the hot sauces and whatnot, or have you gone back to normal?
You know, I'm probably a bad person to ask about that because I've always put hot sauce on everything that I eat. Hot sauce and ranch dressing, and that's something that didn't change when I went to the habitat. So just the same kind of pattern. So it's, you know, so yeah, probably not the best person to ask.
College gourmet.
Yeah, exactly. Those ramen noodles get covered in hot sauce.
At least it's not cereal, okay? So that's good.
That's true. I have some limits.
I was wondering, Fabien, do you have anything that you've already found out you wish you had known before you went under? I should have brought this, or I didn't expect it.
I wish I had known. Yeah, many things. I wish I had known that Adam snored so loudly at night.
I would like to interject that Kip snored louder.
You know what? I've got to say that I think every aquanaut snores, because at different times I've woken up and it's a different person. So no, I think that's there's certainly some things, some aspects. I wish I'd done this sooner. I think that the time is definitely right now to be doing it, but had I done it sooner, I may have even had the opportunity to have the knowledge and maybe even insight that my grandfather would have given. Of course, it would have had to have been 15 years ago. But that said, you know, I'm going to quote my grandfather on this. If I knew what I was going to find out, I wouldn't go do it. And that's really what it's about. I mean, the sense of adventure and exploration is really to push the boundaries and find new things about ourselves, about the world, and about our place in it. If we already know that knowledge, if we already have that knowledge, then it's not interesting to me, because I want to be able to use the knowledge that we already have and build on it. And for me personally, it's the same philosophy. I'm very curious about things. Once that happens, I'm curious about something else, or a different aspect of that particular scenario. So with this said, yeah, had I known it was going to be so complicated and expensive, I think I probably would have shied away from such an enormous project. But it's because of that ignorance that this project exists. And once I was in it, I just kept moving forward. And I have a very hard forehead, and I'm just going to keep hitting my head against the wall until I break through it.
I think reckless abandon, when you are enticed by that imagination and that curiosity, is what really leads to breakthroughs. And because you're there, we're able to see things that we've never seen before. So we're glad you're doing that, and we're glad that you're taking those risks. We also know that this is a really important time for oceans, and I want to talk a little bit about the science that you're doing, and also just the awareness of how much we do know and how much we do not know. If you could talk a little bit about the history, but also the changing future of ocean exploration.
Well, you know, there's been a lull in ocean exploration in the last 20 years, and there has been exploration. It's just been stymied by the lack of investment, the lack of funding, both on a government level as well as a private level. And I find that to be a shame, because we've lost a lot of time. We are seeing a resurgence of interest in oceans for various reasons, whether it be economic, whether it be cures for different diseases that we're facing, or whether it be for exploration on various levels, including, of course, looking at biodiversity and finding new species. And in any event, I don't know how long our interest will continue as a general as a population around the world, but I believe that it's here for a long period of time because at the end of the day, we're talking about the 99% of our world's living space. This really does dictate everything that we know, that we care for, that we're dependent on. You know, it's weather patterns, it's economics, it's our health, it's our natural resource bank account. And so with that said, it really does behoove us to take into account in our daily conversations, whether we're at home, at a corporation, or in government, to include oceans in those talks, and not just for environmental reasons, which obviously are of paramount importance, but also for very pragmatic reasons.
And
I don't know if I answered your question on that. I just realized I went on a tangent.
No, you absolutely, you did. It is the new frontier, and that gives us a lot of excitement. But with that also is required support. And I know in the 60s, President JFK was obviously known for space exploration, putting the man on the moon, but also was known for declaring the 60s as the decade of oceans. And I just wonder if you feel that vision was realized, and you know, I know, Laura, you have some thoughts on that too. Considering that was so long ago, where are we now, and where do you think we ought to be with the national dialogue?
Well, I think you just put up a slide from the National Aquarium that shows the topography of Mars, Moon, and Earth being mapped. And our oceans have barely been mapped, whereas Mars and Moon are 100% mapped, which is pretty interesting considering this is our aquatic backyard and yet we know so little about it. You know, I think we're definitely at the dawn of Aquarius, at the dawn of a new phase of exploration. It's certainly going to have to change and modify because we do have technologies now. They need to be leveraged to be able to go longer, deeper, further. And at the end of the day, we can only stand to know more about ourselves if we push the limits of that exploration, of that science, and of course of that outreach to be able to get people more in tune with what this place is, this aquatic place is. Again, I don't know if I answered your question on that, but
I think you did, and some exciting news happened this week as well.
Yeah, you had mentioned earlier Capitol Hill Oceans Week, which was last week. Mm-hmm. This week was Secretary Kerry's Our Oceans Conference. Yesterday was the announcement from President Obama on the executive order. This was a very exciting month for the oceans, obviously. And I have two questions for you. One is what is your opinion specifically around the intent to increase marine protected areas from the executive order itself? And then two, how do people like you and how do people like us take this interest in the oceans and make it an everyday occurrence for all the people out there, not just folks watching us right now? How do we keep this going?
Yeah, I think, you know, conferences are great. Better late than never to talk about these things. I was part of a Hangout, thanks to Wi-Fi in the Habitat, for Kerry's conference yesterday. And we talked about the intent of President Obama to double one of the national marine sanctuaries in the Pacific, and I think that's fantastic. That's I'm a big proponent of leading by example. It doesn't serve any purpose to point fingers if you're not doing the right things yourself. And I think that that's a great step in the right direction. The reason why I say better late than never is because we are behind on many things. There's a lot of time to catch up on, and the faster and the more we can support those kinds of efforts as the general public, as well as private entities and the government, the more we stand to gain for ourselves and, of course, for our future generations. Because at the end of the day, it's really about giving back to our kids what we've taken for granted. No one wants to imagine a planet that can't support life, or at least human life. And so with that, those kinds of steps are a huge step forward. symbolically and realistically, I do believe that MPAs, marine protected areas, true sanctuaries where everything is off limits and you just let nature regroup and heal, are of paramount importance, because just like any bank account, that's the capital off of a bank account, and the spillover effect from those marine protected areas is the interest that it bears. Ask any fisher person that has been fishing around a sanctuary, and they will tell you that they're catching twice as many fish now as they did before the sanctuary existed. And that's just time and time again. I've seen that all around the world. Look at Four Knights National Marine Sanctuaries, for example, or Cape Canaveral, or any of those spots. It's just amazing what happens when you give nature a chance.
And you mentioned the next generation, and I know both here at the aquarium and also with the work that you've done with Plant-A-Fish, and I heard a rumor you might be writing a children's book. I know that you understand engaging those young, enthusiastic people, and we see them come into the National Aquarium all the time. Can you talk about the youth and how they can play a role?
Youth are my favorite human beings. Quite simply said. No, no offense to the adults. I like the adults too, especially the ones with a youthful spirit. But at the end of the day, we're doing it for them, right? And so why wouldn't we want to bolster their learning, bolster their spirit, have them take a lead role in something that our generation has unfortunately squandered? And they know a lot more about the environment than we do at their age, or that we did at their age. They can get the attention of adults that we don't necessarily have an opportunity to get the attention of. CEOs have kids too, and if their kids are saying, Dad, Mom, why are you squandering my future? That puts you in your place as an adult, and you go, holy, bleep, what am I doing? And maybe I should listen to my kids. So it's really for that reason that I do what I do. It's of course for the betterment of human society. I do believe that human beings are good by nature in general, and that if pressed to task, they can create miracles. And it's in no small part due to the power, the imagination, the creativity, and the energy that youth has to bring to the table. There is no such word as impossible in the dictionary for them, and I want to emphasize that, because as long as you believe you can make something happen, and with enough effort and determination, you can make it happen. I've seen it time and time again. So I always tell young people to strike the word impossible from the dictionary. It has no right to be in there.
Well, from 4 people who are probably living their dream, working at the aquarium or getting to have experiences like you, I think we would all agree.
Absolutely.
100%. But we also haven't given up on ourselves either, because we know that we still got a little juice left, and we can do some good things too. If people don't live near the ocean, or they don't scuba dive, you talked about that before, I know that there's still things that people can do. We want that passion, that innovation, that American spirit of, yes, let's work together, through following organizations like ours, like Mission 31, and other great organizations. They can get engaged digitally. What else can they do?
Well, absolutely. I think they can just get outside, and once you start appreciating the natural world, you start appreciating it in its wholeness and how it all connects with each other. And I think even if you don't live near the ocean, but Adam earlier talked about he grew up in Pennsylvania, and now he just spent a week underwater. So if you do live near the ocean, go enjoy it as much as possible. If you don't, go enjoy your backyard. Go enjoy your county park, or whatever it takes. But play outside and really get to experience and love and appreciate what this natural world has to offer.
If you're skiing on top of the mountains, you're skiing on the oceans. I mean, it's that simple. And if you want to make a change in your own life, and I know a lot of people think that their individual person can't make a change in the world. It's just like filling any bucket. The more drops there are in that bucket, the quicker it gets filled up, and the more change we make. Things like having a seafood watch guide app downloaded on your mobile device, simple, free. I'm sorry, and it helps you make better choices in the restaurant and in the supermarket. Using less single-use plastics in our everyday lives. We, as Americans, we use 8 single-use pieces of plastic in our everyday lives on average. Just imagine getting rid of 1 single-use piece of plastic over the 400 million people that live in the United States. How much of a positive impact that would have. It's not a campaign necessarily against plastics per se. It's a campaign against using a material that's built to last 500 years for something used for 30 minutes. It makes no sense, and it's toxic, and there's no reason for it. Beyond that, of course, as you said, use the power of these little devices in our hands. I mean, these things are powerful. We take them for granted. We make phone calls. We tweet. We post things online. We can reach the world with these things. I can talk to anyone in the world with one of these. And by doing so, and by voicing your opinion on your concerns or what have you, or even just your inquisitiveness and asking questions, like some of these folks did today on this chat, you're changing the world one step at a time, and that's what it takes. It takes a global village to change the course that we've set for ourselves, and I believe that we can.
We're right there with you, and I think we're more connected than we've ever been before. I mean, here we are sitting in Baltimore talking to you, 63 feet under the water, live. We can talk to other kids and families that care about the environment all over the world, and we can also start local with our friends in our own communities. So it's amazing now. It's a time like no other, and the ocean needs us like no other time. And, of course, we need it as well. So it's going to take all of us, and we really appreciate all the work that you guys are doing to increase that awareness through Mission 31 in respect and honor of your family and your grandfather's experience and what we do here at the National Aquarium with all of our animals and experiences every day. We thank you for what you do. We're not quite finished with you yet because I know we have a few questions from our viewers. So if I can hold you for just a few minutes, would you mind a couple more questions?
Of course, but before we go to that, I just wanted to say one thing in addition to what you're saying. What you all are doing at the aquarium, educating and enthralling people into taking a peek in the aquatic world is obviously of huge importance, and you all are doing phenomenal work. That's something that is priceless, because the people that walk away from your aquarium walk away with a memory that they'll cherish for many, many years. What Adam and Andy, Grace and Liz are doing is of huge importance to enrich the world, to enrich all of us with their knowledge of what they've learned during their careers. So that we can make better decisions in our everyday lives. So, for you all, you're my heroes, because you can touch people in ways that only you can do because of your expertise.
And our love for the resource, for the animals, for the habitats, and for the beauty. That's why we all got into it. And a lot of the questions we're getting are kind of exciting. They're talking about how do we ensure funding. It says, Fabien, how do you hope funding will emerge to help support the essential work of science researchers?
Well, funding models change all the time, and originally it depends on the country and, of course, on what platform you're working off of. But basically, in a nonprofit situation in the United States, traditionally grants from foundations and government are usually one of the bigger sources of funding. That's changing, and we're starting to see hybrid models. Hybrid models being a combination, of course, of foundation grants and private capital as well. And I don't know that that's a bad thing. If anything, that helps diversify the portfolio of support. And in a lot of cases, It's very successful. There's going to need to be an adjustment to that, and in some cases it may make sense, some cases it may not. So depending on where you're coming from and what your platform is, it might be something to look into. Um, it's a weird world out there, and we've made it a very interesting and unique one in terms of the human structure of our society. So there's all where there's a hunger for something to happen, a project to happen. There's always a solution to it, um, and it's just a matter of thinking outside the box. Just because one source of funding is dried up doesn't mean that there's not funding elsewhere. It's just a matter of finding it and being creative.
Well, we understand that as well, and we do. But I think the time is coming now. There's so much more attention and exciting information. And I do have another question for you, if you don't mind. How will your work impact how we will use and conserve ocean resources in the future?
I have to think about that for a little bit, just because I hesitate to say it's my work per se. Yes, of course, that's a contributing factor in the grand scheme of things, but a lot of people dedicate their lifetimes to these kinds of endeavors, and it's only by bonding as a community and by sharing the knowledge and the resources that we can fathom to take the next step in our future. So, as far as my work's concerned, it's to continue exploration, work with young scientists, and broadcast to as many sources as possible the beauty, majesty, fragility, and importance of the oceans and of our planet in general. So as a storyteller, an ocean explorer, that's really my focus. And as long as my curiosity is piqued, then the rest is easy. The sharing of the experiences is a pleasure, because it means that hopefully other people will find what we've discovered interesting, and as such, if they find it interesting, then maybe that will help make better choices within their social circles. Working with folks such as yourselves, with Adam, Andy, Liz, Grace, who all come from various backgrounds, and working with many other platforms, including National Geographic and many others. I'm not going to name drop all day long, but basically that really is a blessing, and it's something that's very important. And we need those networks to stay tight, work together as much as possible, and hopefully grow, because we have a tendency as a small, tight-knit ocean group to talk to each other, but we need to really look the other way and talk to social circles that don't necessarily dive into our topics the way we do. And by inviting folks like Adrian Grenier today, who came down to visit us from Entourage, or Ian Somerhalder from Vampire Diaries, it's a way to reach beyond our traditional circle. And they're just as passionate about the oceans, but they have followers that normally wouldn't pay attention.
Mm-hmm. And
If I
pop
could
stars.
chime in for just a sec. Actually, from the scientific aspect as well, there are so many, in terms of ocean conservation, there are research papers that come out every day and all the time that are just fantastic and have amazing potential to influence our future decisions and make responsible management policies. And a large problem in science is that we have a very difficult time conveying these papers and conveying these research findings to a wider audience than just the people who already know about it. And from my perspective, coming into this entire mission and working with Fabien and his crew, and they have this amazing way and ability to convey information to so many people, and it's just such a privilege to be a part of that and to have this science be displayed for the world to see. And as he said, moving forward, hopefully this mission in particular is going to open doors and networks for that kind of communication from the scientific community to the general audience, you know, of the world, and people that might not necessarily have had that before. And so we're very thankful for that on our end, and for Fabien for including us in this endeavor on that.
Well, you know, I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, science and education are the basis for humanity and for human beings, and without it, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we are now. We'd probably still be rubbing sticks together, and even then, probably not that. So,
we have better methods?
Not an Aquarius.
Aquarius.
Not allowed.
No fire.
No, we're not rubbing sticks down here for sure. But it's true. I mean, you know, what Adam's saying. You know, there's so much knowledge out there that is being generated by experts, and we really do need to pay attention to it. And sometimes science is very heavy, very thick, and by being able to translate it into something palatable for the general population, we're able, hopefully, to impassion them into that particular topic, because it really does pertain to all of us. And what the scientists are doing out there is amazing stuff. They dedicate their lives and to furthering knowledge. And with that, we really do need to pay attention, whether we're scientists or not. And if that takes using different platforms and different media and different methods to be able to translate real science into real daily lives for everybody, then that's what we need to do.
Well, speaking of science and really technical questions, Fabien, what is the first meal that you need to go for when you're back on land?
You know, it wasn't so much a meal. Right now, we're very well fed down here, although I've got to say, as a French person, it's not particularly the palate I would normally be considering gourmet, but it is sustenance, and it does work. The first thing I would like to do when I get up is have a nice, beautiful glass of red wine.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll have one for you tonight in your honor.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
And I'll have another.
Are you of age?
Well, I just would like to take the moment to say thank you to Adam, to Fabien Cousteau, to the entire crew of Mission 31 that's making this happen, to Laura here at the National Aquarium with me, and to all of you who joined us on this awesome Google Plus Hangout. It was a total treat. I'm sorry we can't have you a little longer, but until next time, I think we have to say goodbye.
Thank you all so very much, and my best to you from the bottom of the sea.
Thanks for including me, guys. It's been great.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Until